wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
And that starts with our show and our means of taking care of you, which is by entertaining you. And that involves us telling you all the reasons why you decided to attend. I'm sure you know them well. But now it's time to turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton, and I am so excited. I get to have a brand new person to Multiverse. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But Miss VJ Harrison is here with me, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Okay. My name is VJ Harrison, of course. I write sci-fi for Mocha Memoirs Press. I also write under another pen name. I mostly write urban fantasy and some young adult urban fantasy and horror as well, and that's under my other name, Marcia Collette. But my latest release is VG Harrison, so that's who I'm going as for now. So yeah.
Right on. That's awesome. Hi, Anita. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. So this is your first time. You were telling me off air that you went to another con, and somebody at another con kind of said, "Oh, you got to go to Multiverse." So. What made you decide that Multiverse was the destination this year?
Well, for many years, I have a lot of writer friends who have always attended Multiverse, and I never got a chance to go because there's so many cons going on during the year before Multiverse happens. Mm-hmm. And this year I said, you know what? I gotta pull it back a little bit. No Dragon Con, no, none of that. And then when I looked at the time when Multiverse was happening, I'm like, wait a minute. If I'm not doing Dragon Con, that means I can do Multiverse this year. This will work. Yeah, I can do this. And so here I am. I was like, I need to do it at least once. I have to do it because so many people I know go to Multiverse. So yeah.
Your publisher included. She was a track director at one point for Multiverse.
Exactly. Yes. Nicole. Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. So what are you looking forward to most about it? What has you excited? I know you probably got the 17-page opus that they sent out that has all the panels and everything on it, but is there anything in there that really excited you that you go, oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about
that 17-page opus at first had me like, what the heck did I get into? But then as I kept reading through it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. There's like so much. It's jam-packed. I don't think I've ever seen a schedule as jam-packed as that is. And I was like, okay, usually I sign up for like 5 to 6 panels. It's like, am I supposed to sign up for 10? What's going on? So I signed up for pretty much any and every panel that interests me. But then I said, okay, pick 5 or 6 of these out of about 20 that I've picked, 20 plus, and then just let me know which one's which. So that alone, I could tell just by the panels alone, when you have that many, it's going to be so much fun. You're going to have so much to choose from. And one of the other awesome things I saw about Multiverse was my daughter and I, we always look at the convention schedules and what they did in the previous years and things like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, Mom, they have cosplayers there.
Yeah.
They're not like a sidebar kind of, or like people are scared to cosplay. They're actually going to cosplay. I was
yeah.
This is like perfect for the two of us. I get to do the writer thing. She gets to do the cosplay thing. It's perfect. Oh yeah, I love it.
There's even going to be cosplay within the cosplay this year because
yes,
the dance party is going to be a Gothic theme. So there's going to be some cosplay going on in the dance party as well, which is really cool.
Yes. Dance parties. That won me over too. I will be on a dance floor.
Hi, Sean. Sean is the play track director. Hello, Mr. Hillman. Nice to see you.
Hey.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love that. I love all that, and yeah, the cosplay is a real big thing there. We have professional cosplayers that actually go there and they talk about it. And stuff. It's pretty cool. Are you going to be selling at all while you're there? Do you have a table, or did you apply for a table?
I didn't get a chance to. I didn't apply for a table, but I did apply to sell books at the book fair. So I will have books. I will have copies there. I've already talked to Nicole about it. She's like, "How many do you need?" I'm like, "How many can you send me?" Oh yeah,
yeah, and you'll be able to after panels sell as well. So
people
will come up to you and ask you for books, especially if you're new. Everybody loves the new people because then they you got new things to read and new things to take a look at. So, so you went to Retcon. You said, was it this year or last year?
This year. This was my first Retcon. So, and this is my first Multiverse. So, yeah.
What do you think about the convention setting overall? Are you a fan of doing these conventions? Do you think they're kind of a cool thing to do for an author, or do you kind of have to work yourself up to get to the space to do these?
I think they're really, really cool as an author, and they're especially cool if you're a newbie. And I just talked to a friend just the other day about this. She wrote horror short stories, and she was like, I don't know if I can do a convention. I mean, it's just a short story. I'm like, you know what? You just gotta bite the bullet and do it, because once you do it, it is so much fun to just hang out with other authors, to meet new people who are interested in your stuff, and to sit and talk to, fans about the craft and things that are coming down the line, and get their thoughts on stuff. I love hearing readers' thoughts about things, whether it's my work or somebody else's. It doesn't matter, because I just sometimes need to know if I'm not the one who's insane. And I know as a writer what we're supposed to do, but sometimes it really, really helps to hear from the fans and hear their thoughts on stuff. So I think it's definitely the first step in getting out there is just getting to the conventions and, meeting them face to face, and just making their convention memorable for good reasons, not bad. So that to me is the fun part of it. I love it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had an experience with Retcon. I think that is very similar to Multiverse. Multiverse and Retcon are kind of a similar vein. Multiverse is a tad bit more social, but not totally like out of the realm of there's selling points. There is a dealer's hall and everything like that. But I think Retcon and them are very similar in that respect. So I think social cons, they're a little different because they're constructed to be obviously social. I mean, it's more designed for the networking aspect of it. So I think that's kind of a really good hubris for what Multiverse is just kind of talking and to other authors and kind of making sure you're not the crazy one in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or if you are, at least you're not alone.
We're dealing with it on the computer. So yeah, we're dealing with our psychosis that way.
That's awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I think you're going to enjoy it. I really do. It's an experience. So you're going to bring your daughter. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Oh, she'll love that.
Oh, she's looking forward to it. She's already trying. She hasn't figured out her lineup yet, as I'm told. The cosplay.
One of the cool things that Multiverse has done in the last 2 years is they've kind of incorporated a lot of programming for young adults and kids in that respect. So I think that she'll meet a lot of people that she'll be surprised at how many people are of her age or around that she can relate to and talk to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna love that. I'm gonna love it for her. So yeah. Oh yes.
Is she a writer too? Does she have a bug yet?
No, not yet. Her big thing is she does a lot. She gets a lot of her costumes, of course, from AliExpress and all that, but she always has to modify them. So her big thing is is modifying her costumes so that they fit her better, as well as creating things like, I think she had to create this big gigantic mallet for somebody from Danganronpa. I can't remember the name of the character, but she had to create this gigantic mallet for it, and she did that. And then she went as Ken Kanaki from Tokyo Ghoul, and she created the kagone on the back to look like it's like tentacles. And so she loves doing that stuff. It takes time, and sometimes there has to be a lot of patience and tissues involved and moments of screaming, but she loves doing that. She loves creating all of the extra stuff that goes along with the cosplay. Like, she just created some bows to go in some I don't know who she's dressing up as, but she created some bows to go in the hair because she didn't like the bows that came with the costume. So, oh yeah, she's deep into that. She's into that like I'm into writing. So that's her thing. It's like, oh girl.
Let's talk a little bit about writing. One of the fascinating things for me, talking to folks who use pen names or use alternate names to write different genres. Was that a conscious choice? Was that something you were advised to do? How did that come about for you? Why did you decide to go that route?
Okay. So what had happened was there was when I've always decided I knew I would probably want a pen name. But then when I got a stalker, and this had nothing to do with writing, this was just pure, we went out on a date and I decided it wasn't good. He decided he didn't want to let go. So I decided, we're going to work this pen name forever because I'm never giving up my real name if I don't have to. Just because of that reason alone. So it's more like a safety and security type of thing for me. More so than anything else. But the one good thing I like about it is I started out, my pen name was Marcia Collette. Marcia is my real first name. That's all I'm going to admit to. And so I started out with that as a pen name. And I realized, I could pretty much change myself and be whoever I want to be. And not only that, it does actually help keep track of the genres. And so when I decided I want to do sci-fi, that's when I was like, okay, I need a new pen name because I'm not going to keep Marcia Collette and then just mash everything up. I want a new pen name, new everything. And so that's when I decided to go with VG Harrison.
I mean, the most genres these days are blendable, but it is kind of a jump to go from a YA to an adult content-oriented content. Was that also a natural progression for you? Did you, or was it more about I want to do sci-fi than anything?
It was more so I wanted to do sci-fi. When I decided I wanted to do, I was already doing urban fantasy. I did paranormal romance and I kind of trailed off that and went into urban fantasy. And then I went to young adult urban fantasy. So for me, it was more so I will just keep Marcia Collette for both of them because I was looking more so at the urban fantasy aspect. Sure. And then when I decided to do sci-fi, to me that I didn't want to blend that genre at all. And so I wanted to go for me, going sci-fi was a completely different route. So I wanted a different name to go with it. And so that's how I kind of decided I wanted to go with VG Harrison, just pick a completely different name. And there's also the fact that it might help fans keep track of what I'm doing. They might like sci-fi as VG Harrison and may not like urban fantasy as Marcia Collette. So at least it'll help them keep track of what they're reading, so to speak. They know what to expect just by the name alone.
So what type of science fiction would you say you write? Are you more in the hard science fiction, or do you like to do more of like the space opera kind of kind of softer science fiction?
When I first got into sci-fi, I just knew what I liked and I just started writing it. And Nicole said to me one day, Marcia, you are so hardcore. You're so hardcore sci-fi. And even my editor, Alexandra Christian would say, Marcia, sometimes I gotta look stuff up with what you're talking about. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it interests me. I like singularities and things like that. They're really cool. She's like, yeah, I can tell by your writing alone. Yeah. So she's like, you are so hardcore. And sometimes she has to bring me out of the rafters. So yeah, it's hardcore. Yep.
What is it about singularities that you love? I mean, I'm curious.
It's, to me, I just think they're beautiful alone. I mean, I think they're absolutely gorgeous. And then when you think about like the mechanics behind it, and you have to wonder, okay, what happens when I get on the other side of this singularity? Like, like a black hole. What happens when I get on what really happens? They talk about, time and space kind of stretch and everything and compress. And it's like, really? But I wonder if, and then something I'm working on currently, we talk about black holes. That's all we hear about is black holes. But, I think there's only one or two places that I've ever seen the concept of a white hole. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm bringing this into my book. So they say black hole, it just sucks up all the light, whereas a white hole kind of like is a sign of creation. It's just so exciting to me. I love it. So yeah.
All right, let's nerd out a little bit. I was almost expecting to have this conversation with our next guest, but I think okay. you've convinced me to have this conversation with you, and that is, have you heard this theory about how we are in a black hole?
I have. Now, do you mean like at the center of our universe there is a black hole, and we're just
this universe is part of a black hole, and we're the tail end of the black hole, where you come from the black hole, we are that. That's who we are.
Yes, I have heard of it, and all I can say about that is I really don't care, because by the time we get to the center, yeah. So yeah,
it's a very interesting theory because and I've heard a lot of scholars and people talk about this. This is way above my brain power, but it was very interesting to me because it kind of it almost in a lot of senses doesn't debunk religion, but it kind of makes it kind of moot if we're kind of like just piece of something that was part of something else that's really doesn't exist anymore, kind of idea. Which is very interesting.
Neil deGrasse Tyson said one time, and this makes a lot of sense, because he was asked one time if he believed in God, and I think I love his take on it. He's like, well, knowing what I know and all the things that are happening out there and flowing through space, and somehow we miraculously still survive, there's got to be a higher power or some sort that's keeping us safe. And I'm like, you know what? I like that explanation. I really do.
Yeah, it's also hard to believe that we're alone in this. This world. Yeah,
that's one thing. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% on that one.
Is for you, is science fiction kind of exploring, what you hope, or is it more exploring what you fear?
It's more exploring what I hope. Because to me, I honestly kind of go back to like what you said about us being alone in the universe. I have a hard time believing we're alone. We're the only thing out here. I don't buy that. Yeah. Now, I do buy the fact that sometimes aliens might think we're so stupid and ignorant on this planet. Why bother stopping by? That I 100% believe. And I go with that. So that's why there is some hope that it would be nice for somebody to stop by and say hello. I don't need an invasion. I just need a hi. How are you guys out there? And just keep on moving on or something like that. I don't need an invasion. But I would like to think that, there is something more out there. I hope that there's something more out there. And for us as a species, I don't buy the fact that we're alone. No.
Is it important for you to be authentic though with how the science melds with the fiction? You said you're pretty hardcore, so I would imagine that is the case, that authenticity matters a lot to you.
Oh, it does. It matters a lot, just simply because I want my story to be as real and as plausible as possible. I don't want it to be, let me put it this way. I just don't want it to come off like comedy. I mean, there are comedic moments between people because that's just how we are. But I want it to be as realistic as possible. And a part of me hopes that, somebody will pick up my book someday and say, is that really real? Is that really possible? And then they'll go and research it for themselves. I'm all about people researching things for themselves to see if they're real. Now, I will bend some stuff and, I will fold some stuff in to get it to work in the story. But otherwise, I do like to keep it as realistic as possible.
Is it the same for you with the urban fantasy? Is that why you chose the urban fantasy in terms of to keep it more grounded for you in authenticity?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like if there were going to be werewolves in our world, I don't see them letting the world as we currently are in know it. You would not know it. Same thing with vampires. You would never know that they were out there. If you want to keep the mystery, so to speak, about them, I think letting them be exposed to the world, that just ruins the fun. So yeah.
The other thing about YA that's kind of interesting to me is writing in that voice and kind of going back in time a little bit for yourself and kind of connecting to that inner child or that inner teen. Did you have a hard time, maybe not a hard time getting into the characters you were creating for that aspect of it? Or did you have a hard time getting out of that? Did you find yourself kind of leaning into that a little bit more outside of when you were writing, or are you able to compartmentalize it a little bit more?
I think I'm able to compartmentalize it a little bit more. Because when I'm writing YA, I kind of go back into my YA self and have to wonder, how would I have handled this situation, being a 16-year-old? What would I have done differently? And then I also have to think about my background and where I grew up. Because it was not easy for us in any stretch of the imagination. We didn't have the White House and the white picket fence. We didn't even have a fence. We couldn't afford one. I mean, we couldn't even afford we couldn't afford the White House. We lived with my grandmother. And so there were some aspects of me that as a child, I had to actually grow up a little bit sooner than everybody else. And so those moments I leaned into writing YA. Because I think as a child, there are moments when you have to sometimes be that grown up, especially if you're 15 or 16 years old, you kind of have to go into a grown up mode when things go crazy and haywire and you're trying to piece them together. And so for me, I had to get into that character. Like when I was back living in upstate New York, what was it like? What was I growing up? What did I have around me? What were the dangers and fears? And then kind of take those emotions and that stress and that anxiety and put it in my character so I could write the YA.
Did you enjoy being in that space, or was that kind of scary for you?
It was kind of scary. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it was kind of scary for me. So I just kind of that's why it's kind of taken me a while to get through my series, because it is kind of scary for me. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because you kind of, when you grow up, you leave that behind you and you kind of look at it and go, how stupid was I, or how silly was I? But then you look back on it and you visit something like that where you're writing something in that space, and then it's so easy to get back to that space a little bit. It's kind of it's a little frightening to do that a little bit because you've grown past it.
Right. Exactly. It's like
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, it's like when I come out of that space, sometimes like I'm in it and I'm on this roller coaster ride, but when I come out of it, it's like, whew. So yeah.
Has your daughter read what you've written?
She's read my YAs and she likes my YAs. She's like, Mom, when are you going to do a third book in this one? I'm like, look, just give me a minute. Okay. Just give me a minute. So yeah. So she's read the YAs. She's read some of my urban fantasies as well, and she likes them. She's not into sci-fi, so she's probably not going to read that one. You know, it is what it is. But yeah.
I know you're probably writing for yourself, but was there a part of you that was kind of writing for her a little bit in that in the YA aspect?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Pretty much, I will honestly say pretty much all of my books are I embody pieces and parts of my daughter in my main characters. That's for all of my books, because I at some point she may decide she wants to go back and reread something, or she may come back and decide she wants to read sci-fi or something like that. And I've even told her that I put bits and parts and pieces of my character in each, and from her, I put them in my characters, so that she has, you know, something. She could see what her mom was thinking. I don't know if that's a safe thing, but yeah, I love
now. But
yeah,
maybe down the road.
Exactly. It's like, so yeah.
Is writing sci-fi for you a different? Do you use a different muscle, or or is the writing process pretty much the same for you, and the way you do it?
The muscle's pretty much the same. The process hasn't changed for me at all. But of course, there's a lot more research that's involved in sci-fi.
Sure.
And sometimes I have to dig back into, like, I have to take, before I go and write something, sometimes it's like, okay, I need to sit down and look at Stargate again. I need to sit down and look at Star Trek. I need to look at Doctor Who. I just need to kind of get in that mindset, sci-fi mindset, and get the creative juices flowing and say, what if this happens? What if this happens? And so that's pretty much my process, but it's kind of the same. The funny thing is, and I don't know if people find this a little bit psychotic, is that I don't read a lot of sci-fi. I mean, the biggest things I've read over the years, there was an Alien series that I read because I love Alien. So they actually had books, and I read those. I read some of the Star Wars books as well, a whole bunch of those. But that's as far as my sci-fi really goes. I don't really read too much sci-fi. I'll read sci-fi short stories before I would read like a whole novel, so to speak.
So you're like a fan of like the periodicals and stuff like that have like the short stories and stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Sean has a question for you. He's asking, do you have a favorite harder sci-fi movie?
Oh my gosh, I love The Martian. Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
The Martian was absolutely awesome. I love The Martian because when I found out the backstory, like, I can't remember his name who wrote The Martian, but
Andrew Weir.
When he did all of this research into seeing whether or not a person can actually survive on Mars, I was like, oh my God, I love this man. I love him so much. And then to think that NASA actually, I think they used his book to educate other astronauts on. I was like, oh yeah, I love this man.
Did you know that book started as a blog?
I heard about that. Yeah. I thought that was amazing. And
it's pretty cool.
So that was just so cool. I love it. Yeah.
So I imagine you've read the book as well then.
I started reading the book and then I lost it.
All right.
Because I was moving from house to house. It's in my garage somewhere to this day. I'm ready to buy another copy. I don't care. Because I just remember we were moving when I had the book, packed it. It's in my garage. I'm so sad. So yeah.
Is Mars a fascination of yours? Do you like?
To some extent it is. I mean, I would like to be a part of that Mars generation where we actually get to Mars someday. That being said, I hope we're not stranding our people there. I'd like to see them come back too. That's what I'm concerned about. That's my biggest concern about Mars.
Yeah.
So,
there is that. Yeah, for sure. Is there something in space that has really fascinated you though? Was it what is it about space that has, like, when you researched it, you go, oh my God, that's awesome. I gotta include that.
One of the things I've included in my recent release, Abandoned Station, it's in my Dyson series. There's mentions of it, and it's the Cuniper Belt. I would love to go well beyond that to see what else is out there beyond our edge of space. I mean, it was funny for a while. People thought Pluto was the end of it. I'm like, no, we can go further. But I would love to see what is really and truly beyond the Cuniper Belt. And I would love to take a ship that actually goes out there. One of my characters in my recent release, Among Us, they're actually talking about being on the Cuniper Belt mission that goes out there. And I was like, oh my God, I would love this to be a part of the story, but it's not about that. But there's a mission, and that's what matters. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, VGs. Thank you so much for joining me and being a part of this. I really appreciate it. I look forward to meeting you in October. Yes. Maybe there'll be some weird science thing that we can convalesce over and talk about as in October. Yes. It comes out, and I hope that you have a really good time at Multiverse regardless.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this. This is awesome. I was nervous coming up, but this is awesome. I love it. Yeah.
Well, tell everybody where they can find out more information about your lovely books and where they can check you out.
So if you want to check out my sci-fi, you can go to www.vgharrison.com to find me there. And if you're curious about my urban fantasy, you can go to www.Marcia Collette. That's MarciaCollette. People like to spell Collette with 2 L's. I only spell it with 1. So MarciaCollette.com for that. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, everybody go check those out. And when you're at Multiverse, if you're going to show up or if you need another reason to join us at Multiverse, this is a really good opportunity to get some Zen in right now. We're going to check out one of the things that happens at Multiverse during the convention. And then we'll bring on Ashley Chappell Peoples with us. And we'll be doing more geeky science talk in here in just a second. So, all right, everybody, we'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
As we count down to the Multiverse Convention, we wanted to take this moment to highlight a unique and very important amenity you have afforded to you with your badge. One that is uniquely special to the Multiverse family, and that is the Sensory Break Room. The Sensory Break Room is only for the use of those people who require a quiet space to deal with anxiety and sensory overload. Those who need just a little bit of a break from the larger crowds. There's no talking, no phone calls, no noises, no drinking or eating. Some of the materials you'll find in a sensory break room are weighted and regular blankets, earplugs and individually wrapped earbuds, white noise machines, adult coloring books and other books for quiet activities, and bottled water. It's just another beautiful and wonderful reason as to why the Multiverse Convention year after year continues to be one of the best events of the entire year, and why you need to come and join us and be a part of our family. You will be loved, and this is a great opportunity to love yourself. Come join us in October at the Multiverse Convention. Thank you. I always like to highlight the sensory break room because I think it's an important aspect of what Multiverse differentiates Multiverse from every place else in other conventions, because it's just one of those really unique things that I think that they wanted to have from the very beginning and have had. That being said, I am joined right now by one of my favorite humans on the planet, Miss Ashley.
Hey, Joe.
It's nice to see you. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's nice to see you. Although now I kind of want to go find a sensory break room because that was really nice after a long Monday.
It's kind of funny because you and I actually met for the first time at Multiverse, which is kind of cool.
Hey, I met some of the coolest people for the first time at Multiverse this past year.
and it's first year at Peachtree City. How did you enjoy that? Well, tell us a little bit about your experience at Multiverse.
So that was my first year in person for
Mm-hmm.
Multiverse. The last time I was invited as a guest, I ended up having to cancel, I think it was 2 months prior, and I hated that. Although I did get to attend multi-virtual during the pandemic as a guest, and that was, they did some really outstanding virtual content that year. They really stood up during the pandemic. But that venue, I wasn't sure what to expect. I'd never been to Peachtree City before. Getting to it was so much easier than trying to get anywhere in downtown. Even getting to like Dunwoody area was always so difficult because you're going to be stuck on the interstate. It doesn't matter what time you leave, something's going to happen. You're going to just sit there burning fuel and cussing a lot. But yeah, the
Yeah.
venue was fantastic. I didn't know quite what to expect because when you pull up, the exterior looks a little dated, but I love that it's like set back into like the trees and in the woods away from the road so you don't hear any of the main highway that you're on. And our room was kind of like the back of the hotel where we had the two queens. It opens up to a little balcony with trees out there, and it was so swank inside.
Yeah, I got really lucky with the rooms. I was like so where the staircases are, I was like the second room on the left right there.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And yeah, I had a little balcony and everything like that. It was really cool. And it was the one that was facing everybody else too. So it was like I could see people outside and we would just yell across the corridor to each other and stuff. But
Yeah, it had like a 1/4 mile hike, I think, to get to the main area, but I was okay with that. It was kind of nice to be away from everything and just have that little, since I didn't go to the sensory room, I should have. I had my little escape back there in the back of the hotel.
I mean, there is something to be said for that. That it's all around us at Multiverse too, because there's some serenity definitely within those woods.
There really is. I heard it had like, I didn't get to go see all the amenities, and I should. I'm going to do that this year because I heard there's like 2 different gyms, multiple pools, racquetball courts, all these other things I didn't even check out last year.
I
Will
was
not miss it
blown
this year.
away. I was blown away by the gym. Actually, I was helping. I actually had said this last time, so people who are watching again will hear this again. But I was helping the con suite get set up, and the elevator that goes up there. The gym was right there, and so like we were looking at this gym. It's like state of the art. It's like all glass enclosed, and it's
nice.
like,
Oh wait, so people can see me? You?
Yeah. I mean, it's really in a like secluded part of the hotel. If people don't use that elevator very often.
Good.
But yeah, no, and I should say it goes around. So like I think the bicycles are on the like far wall and stuff like that. So like and all the weights are. There's just like a little space, like it looks like where you would do yoga and stuff like that right there, where they can see you. But otherwise, the corner, you have to go around the corner to see everybody. But yeah, no, it's really awesome. And I heard the pool was great too. I didn't get the chance to check out the pool, but
yeah, the restaurant was really good too. Of course, the con suite's always amazing, but we spent a lot of time just down in the restaurant, just trying out the meals there. I did not have a single bad meal at that restaurant. Everything was just perfect.
For someone who attends a fair amount of cons, because I've seen you at a fair amount now, what is it about Multiverse that you think separates it from other cons?
It's funny you mentioned that too, because I've actually cut back a lot since the pandemic. I went into, full goblin mode during COVID, during all of that. And part of me, I wasn't sure I was going to come back and do cons again because I lost that ability to be around large groups of people. So when I did start coming out again, I stuck with just the smaller events because it's easier, it's more accessible, it's more family feeling. Like a Jordan Con and Multiverse really are the primary 2 that I've done since the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I will never not go to both of those cons. Multiverse was such just a treasure to find. It's a lot of the same crowd, a lot of overlapping crowds since they're both and it's like I get to have 2 family reunions in a year. There is nothing like walking around a con full of people that you know, full of people that you haven't met yet, that they're about to be family too, and just feeling like everyone who sees you loves and accepts you for exactly who you are. And they all hope that you're as weird as they are.
You got to table with Paige at Jordan Con. That must have been a hoot.
Yeah, we were right next to each other at Multiverse too. We kind of arranged things so that we could hawk for each other when we needed. She's the best table buddy.
She's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
So okay, so you got the 17-page opus as well. I'm curious from your perspective because you write fantasy mostly, right? Would that
I
be fair
do.
to say? Yeah.
Fantasy, and then last year in the Jordan Con anthology, I ventured out and did my first space opera, which was a lot of fun, and I've
Oh,
actually got some further things that I'm got planned in the fire for that universe.
for people who don't know, that's in Ashley's wheelhouse pretty heavily, right?
I sort of. I was listening to VG talk, and there's a lot of things I would love to talk to her about. But even though I work at NASA, so I'm a senior budget analyst. So when she's talking about the singularities, I just need to know if those singularities have a charge code.
But otherwise, I mean, I you know, looking at that at the panels and stuff like that, was there anything that you really stuck out to you that you're really looking forward to, or that you would like to try and do?
Oh gosh, I wish I had the notes because I finally got around to sending in the panel list on the 30th, the day that it was, no later than. There are, I had a hard time. I was going through, I told myself I was going to limit myself in submitting interest on panels this year, but every single track had something that I was just drooling over, something I was so excited about. The track directors at Multiverse are just phenomenal. They put a lot of time and thought into finding unique topics and pulling people together with just the right backgrounds to talk about those things. And it's really awe-inspiring to be a member of some of those panels because it doesn't matter how much you think you know, you're going to learn more by the time you walk out that door.
Yeah, that's the main reasons that Jordan Con and Multiverse will always be in my rotation, is because I feel the same way about both of those.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
you get on these panels, and they do a really good job of putting you in a position to succeed. And I think that's not all cons do that, and it's very difficult sometimes to navigate that, or to
Oh,
get
for
over
sure.
the imposter syndrome a little bit of having to be on something that maybe you're not really comfortable being on. And I feel like I've never had that with Multiverse. I had that with Jordan Con, but Jordan Con actually showed me a better way of dealing with that, and so I'm always grateful to Jordan Con for that. But with Multiverse, I've never had that. I've always been on something that I really feel like I'm comfortable talking about.
Yeah, and the moderator you have will always make a huge difference. The moderators for
That's very
both
true.
of those cons have always been so prepared, so ready and capable for driving a conversation forward. If it starts lagging or if it starts getting off topic, they can politely pull things back into friendlier grounds if things get a little bit argumentative. They're all skilled at what they do. And
Uh,
I've been to several cons that were not that same way, and
mhm.
I've had moderators who ended up talking for half the panel, and the panelists were just kind of sitting there waiting to be asked a question.
Mm,
You never know what you're going to get at some cons.
that's too bad.
Yeah,
You only have so much time, you know.
exactly, exactly.
And yeah, well, while you're probably somebody who has some importance, there is for four other people or five other people that need to speak as well, and that's not good.
Right, right.
um, I am curious. You were here, you were listening to our conversation. Uh, was the theory I brought up, was that something that you've heard at NASA before?
It's not anything I've heard. Now,
Oh, interesting.
keep in mind too, we're known as,
Kind of
so at Marshall Space
isolated.
Flight Center, we're more of like the propulsion center.
Okay.
So I can talk to you about rotating detonation rocket engines. I can talk to you about a few other things that we do, some cryogenic fluid management, especially things that are in the Space Technology Mission Directorate area, which is my focus.
Oh,
But when you
you're
want to
gonna
get into like the really heavy theoretical stuff, I will be glad to listen, but I haven't heard it.
you're gonna break my heart. You're gonna make me have flashbacks, MREs, and things of that nature. You're talking about. Oh, yeah, I was a
Yeah.
Marine, so that just yeah, MREs are a nightmare for me.
Oh, I was talking RDREs, like the rotating detonation rocket engines, and yeah, those are we're a really engineering heavy center,
Hmm.
and it's a little bit different from what you would imagine from the movies.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah, the
For
movie.
one
Well,
thing,
the
our
movie
buildings were built in
glorifies
the
the
40s.
glory of it, though, right? I mean, that's what the movies are there
It
for.
does. We're there for the science, for the
Yeah,
engineering, for sure. No, and
yeah.
no matter budget cuts or anything, we're here to do the cool shit.
And NASA runs like a business, so there is business aspects to NASA that people don't ever get to see. So yeah.
It's yeah, and one thing this year we actually Marshall Space Flight Center, we're celebrating our 65th anniversary this year,
Oh, nice.
which given like the 50% science cuts, things like that, it's been a little bittersweet, but
Yeah,
we've
sure.
spent a lot of time looking back at the science that we've done. We've made a legacy of doing more with less, and we do it without, our drive is not profit, it's not military, it's for the sake of humanity. And I will always love being a part of that.
How did you get involved in NASA, if you don't mind me asking?
Years ago. So I grew up in Kentucky, went to school at UK, and I was living in Lexington. And the guy I was dating at the time got a job offer in Huntsville. I was like, if I go with him, I don't really like him that much, but if I go with him, I could get a job at NASA. And within 3 months of moving there, I got my foot in the door. I've been there actually since 2007. So this year's my 18-year anniversary.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your series and fantasies. Your fantasy.
Oh yeah, I do write books too. I forgot.
You do. Tell everybody a little bit about your series. It's one series right now, right? Or are you working on a second one as we're talking?
I've got too many whips right now that we won't talk about some of them because they are my shame. But right now I do have the one primary Dreams of Chaos series that's out. I've been working on book 4 for a while. That's been put on the back burner while we started building our own house, which don't do that. Don't ever do that, because it's been like a 7-year debacle.
I can relate, not to that degree, like a small degree. One of the things that when I first met my wife, now ex-wife, we wanted to cut our own Christmas tree and make our own Christmas tree. And never, when you go through that experience, you never want to do it ever again.
Everything is bigger than you expect it to be. And we're building the whole house ourselves, which was such a silly idea. We were so young and naive, sweet summer children.
Sorry, that was a stupid way to relate to what you do.
Oh, no. It's people don't understand. Every time, like even what you think is going to be the tiniest little DIY job is not. It's like at least 5 trips to Lowe's, no matter what you're doing. But yeah, my series, I wish I had the magic that they had so I could just, it's done. But so it's a young adult fantasy. Books 1 through 3 are out now. The very first book, Alice Will, it actually started off with, I was journaling one day and I just kind of doodled a silly little paragraph that was how I wish my day had gone. And it was just kind of a thought. It's like, I should always do this. I should write, whatever I thought should happen. And in my head, all of a sudden, there was this little girl named Alice. And she's not Alice in Wonderland, but that's Alice Liddell's sense of wonder was in the character when I was creating her in my head. And she's in this terrible indentured servitude, essentially. She was purchased on the widows and orphans auction in a war-torn country and forced into servitude at like 6 years old. And she's, neglected, mistreated, and is writing about this glorious, wonderful day in her journal. And then my brain started thinking, what if, somehow she could influence things around her by writing in this journal? And all of a sudden there was a entire universe built on magic, floating in a sentient god universe, basically full of a different pantheon that's all struggling with their own longevity and forgetting the roots of their own creation, which becomes very important in books 2 and 3. And it just, things blossom. You never know where you're going to go when you start with the tiniest little seed of an idea.
I don't know if you heard the conversation I was having with VG about YA, but I'm curious from your perspective too, going back into that space, because Alice is very young when you start the journey. So
she is, and even though she's the titular character, but she's not the primary young adult character. Sure. The primary young adult character is about 14. Mm-hmm. But she's
But
yeah.
still, you have to get in that headspace a little bit to kind of guide that along a little bit. I'm curious for you how that was. How did you navigate that? Was that something that you had a hard time with, or was it something that you found relatively easy? Did it kind of scare you that you found it relatively easy?
For me, I feel sometimes like I'm always kind of in that space because I I don't know. Sometimes my mom used to joke that I was replaced. Her child was replaced by an alien at some point, and I'm not entirely sure she's wrong because I feel like half the time in any situation, I feel like I'm standing outside of it trying to figure out how I should react, what it means, and it's so there's this kind of blank slate that you're thinking of for most kids, especially that age.
Hmm.
Everything they experience is the biggest thing they've ever experienced because they've
Yeah.
never experienced it before. So every single thing, you've got this blank slate of, and fully charged emotions, especially for the 14-year-old character that's going to be driven by all this brain and body chemistry that she doesn't understand. Oh, she also has a premature smiting problem.
Oh,
But
fun.
uh, it's for me, it's not hard to step out of a situation and try to imagine what it would be like if I'd never encountered this. How would I be likely to make a believable bad decision? I think one thing I've seen a lot in YA that drive me nuts are characters who they've spent a lot of time developing and growing who make stupid irrational decisions for no reason that is outside of character just to move the plot in a certain way.
Yeah.
Now, if your character is going to make a bad decision, it has to be believable. And
Yeah.
the same thing for adults. It's really no different from writing adult fiction. We're all going to make stupid decisions that we've rationalized ourselves into believing are right, but it has to fit with the character.
What did you enjoy most about the world building aspect? Because you had to build this entire new world. I'm curious what you enjoyed the most about, because I'm sure you have all the politics, you have all the languages, you have all kinds of different things I would imagine you had to create and come up with. So, what part of that did you really enjoy?
Oh, I love doing the language. So I always start off with crazy heavy world building because it's when I'm in the world building that I start asking myself questions about the world that influence the plot. That, certain things like, things that you may never ever include in the book, but you figured out that you've got this particular geographical feature that, oh, that's actually going to drive some cultural development based on human history that was similar in certain areas. These minerals, well, that's going to make this probably some kind of major trading post and things like that. You
Mhm.
start asking yourself questions that become major plot points later on. Like one of the things that's slowing me down with book 4 was one of the kingdoms, a kingdom that's a major player in the background in all of the stories so far, is Tyranny. They're tied to the seaport city that we spend most of our time in the first 2 books, but only through kind of a colonization effort. But in book 4, I really wanted to show the background story that was happening that was tied in with the overarching world trauma or universe trauma at this point. But I wanted to tie it together so you would see what had been going on over those years, but then it would all wrap up and come out at the same time with the rest of the overall story. But it was just getting too heavy. It felt like you were reading 2 books at once. So I've pretty much figured out I need to pull that one out as a novella first and
Mhm.
then bridge into it.
Yeah, that's the kind of difficult thing about fantasy. I think that because we've all read these dictionary versions of fantasy books that we just go, oh man, this slog through world build and all these things that all this info dumping that happens, and
Mhm.
then the prologue being about 400 pages before you even get to the actual story, things like that.
Yes.
Tropes that are familiarized with fantasy, and it's kind of like, how do you kind of navigate what you put into the book versus what you keep to yourself so that you can just answer questions when people have questions, right?
Yeah. It might affect how you build your world, but you may never need to tell anybody about it. And the most important part of world building is, you're setting up a scene, you're not painting the whole book, you're setting up characters. It's what you don't include, knowing what not to include.
Yeah. And I would imagine for YA, it's even probably more difficult because you have these set of eyes that are so curious and so looking at everything and trying to navigate and figure out as much as they can, as much as their brains will allow them to figure out too. I would imagine that there's a challenge with that and balancing the world too a little bit. Am I wrong?
You're definitely not wrong. There's always a curiosity. And that's one of the things that I love writing, that I love about writing YA.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a hunger for story. They want. I think it's not a generational thing. I think I see a strong mixture of young adult readers that say they want a really expansive world building versus others that want a heavy focus on reading, but you still want to appeal to both sides of that one. So I think the balance is really giving enough detail that those who are really hungry for an expansive, like, your Brandon Sanderson style, just completely alien world, versus somebody who wants just a shorter story focused something, maybe like an urban fantasy that you can set up some some unique elements, but still have it in a familiar place, then focus on characters.
I would imagine too that we don't give enough credit to kids, and that they really their curiosity stretches beyond just what we're trying to kind of not placate for them, but kind of water down so that they can gravitate toward it kind of idea.
Yeah, the mistake that people make all the time is thinking that young adult fantasy is any less intelligent than grown. I'll never forget. So in like 2012, I still reference this every so often because it makes me so mad that there was an article in Slate that came out from this woman who, the title of it was essentially, the whole gist was essentially that people who grown adults who read young adult fiction should be ashamed because it's not real books. Honey? Nothing that has happened to this child is something that hasn't happened to you. It's not like we're creating things that are completely unimaginable. These are things that people can relate to at any age, and if you can't, then you're a cold-hearted witch.
Yeah, and not only that, but escapism is part of the reason why we indulge in entertainment. Why we read certain things, why we watch certain things. I mean, I'm not in love right now. Does that mean I can't enjoy a rom-com? I mean, it doesn't. It's an escapism. It's kind of it's just kind of nice to turn off your brain sometimes, and that's not to say that YA does that, but I'm just saying there are some aspects of it that I'm probably a little older, and I probably wouldn't relate to that essentially, but I would relate to what's going on. I would relate to the situation. I would enjoy what I'm reading, because who's to say what I enjoy or don't enjoy,
Exactly. And there's always perspective building. It doesn't matter if you might have gone through a similar situation when you were 12 or 14 years old, but seeing how somebody else handles it, that still gives you one more bit of perspective that you wouldn't have had prior. Maybe it changes the way that you talk to your kid about that situation. So it's a handy item in a toolbox for parents and young adult readers, because it's giving you a chance to learn more about yourself and the world around you.
And I also find that oftentimes, like YA or urban fantasy, they tend to ground it in a realism enough that you kind of are already relating to it, whether you want to or not. It's just because we're all human beings and we all have a human experience. So.
Oh yeah, even the most outlandish fantasy stories that don't have a single human character in them whatsoever
are written by humans.
Yes, they are. So you're not going to have perspectives there that you can't finally relate to in some way.
Right. Until I read that first Alien book, I don't know. It's like but I'll always relate to something, I think. When I first started this journey, and there were certain things I didn't read before. Like, I didn't read romance novels, I didn't read women's fiction, just because I figure like it wasn't for me, right? But then when reading those things, what I gained was a different outlook and a different perspective on a life that I don't have any idea about, and I think it helped me become a better person because of that, So I think if you're scared of like YA because you don't want to go back into childhood or whatever the reason may be, or you just think it's silly to read that, I think you should give it a try because I think you'll gain a perspective you never had before.
And that's true for people who are afraid to read fantasy for the same reason or science fiction for the same reason because they think they can't relate to it. I think about books like the Alan Foster Dean series, the Humans and Thranks Corporation, where they were exploring alien world after alien world side by side with new alien races that they met. And you spend several of those books wholly embedded in an alien civilization in something you couldn't imagine relating to, but the situations that they're going through, the growth is something that you can completely find yourself aligned with.
Yep. I mean, Dune is a perfect example of something like that because that's like another level of subtext and unconscious, subconscious thinking that you have to kind of you have to be in a mindset to kind of absorb. But there is a fun story involved in that, so it has that aspect to it too. But once it gets into when you get to Children of Dune, you get to Messiah, you get past the first book, there is like a lore and a world that is created based on the subtextual things that you're reading, and you have to kind of grasp that a little bit. And I think that's interesting because I think learning should not. I mentioned that we should escape, but we should also kind of have perspective and learn a little bit too when we read something that we're looking to escape to.
Absolutely. There's nothing like getting invested into an entirely new system of thought or belief.
So when can we, I'm going to do this to you. I know you don't want me to do it, but when can we expect book 4? When do you feel like you're going to get over the hump and get this for us?
Well, first I've got to make myself stop working on some of the other whips. I've got $79,000 on Lucifer's Hawk, though, and I really want to get that, or 79,000 words. Did I say? I wish I had $79,000. Sorry, still in budget mode today.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, I've got. That's actually an urban fantasy that I'm writing.
The title's awesome. I love the title.
I've been loving it, but I'm like desperate to get back to it because once I can peel myself back into it, I need to kind of jump back into the voice because it's going to be a big difference hopping from a more urban fantasy set partly in hell that's full of F-bombs and other things back into my tame little young adult world. So I need to spend some time with those books again, kind of re-immerse myself into Trotter's and Alice's mindset and some of the other characters and pull out that novella. And I think the first thing I would like to have at least the novella set in Tyranny that starts piecing together the different parts of the country, of the world. And I'd like to have that out by Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And then book 4, which I already had about 40,000 words on, hopefully by next year.
Awesome. Well, as you all can tell, I can sit here and talk to Ashley all day long. Thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. It's awesome to get to talk to you in this setting and have you pick your brain a little bit. And thank you so much for indulging me in stupid questions. I appreciate it.
I was so glad to do it. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to see you in October.
Yeah.
Multiverse.
A lot of fun. Yeah. Are you going to Dragon?
What's that? No, I'm not. No, that goes back to I'm still trying to pull myself out of my goblin hole.
Understood. And Dragon's not a very friendly.
I did it 1 year. I did it 1 year and ended up noping out after Friday and went to. There's a GameX downtown that nobody was at. I spent all day long at GameX and it was great, all alone.
Nice, awesome. Well, we'll definitely see you in October. Tell everybody where they can find out all the information about Alice and all your books there for everybody to check out.
Sure. If you guys have time and you are so inclined, you can find my website at ashleychappellbooks.com. And Chappell is 2 P's and 2 L's. I try to keep my word counts updated there, but I'm also probably sorely behind in some other updates. But anytime I do have new release information, I will post it there, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. And hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have some new release information for you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to the audience. We really appreciate all your comments and like, subscribe, do all the wonderful things you do to keep us going. We really appreciate all of that. And we've got a lot of great programming ahead for the rest of the week here at Go Indie Now. And I hope you guys coming back and check it out. Until then, it's always time to go indie now. Bye, everybody.